This is why you should always pay attention to details. A woman was brushing her hair when she found a little bump at the back of her head, so she called her husband to have him check it out for her. He said it looks like a button. It's small, round, hairless, and flat at the top. He joked around it with her, asking, "What do you think would happen if I pressed it?" Then he did, and the woman instantly leaned up and gave him a kiss. Then the husband kept pressing it as a joke, but something went wrong. It seemed like he pressed it all too many times, and a cool numbness spread down the woman's neck, around her arms and her legs. Her eyes automatically shut and her vision went black. A while later, the woman woke up and learned that she had fainted. The husband kept apologizing with tears in his eyes as if it was all his fault. Eventually, they both went about their lives and tried to forget about this incident, but the woman just couldn't, because afterwards, she came across a photo of her family in the living room. It was a photo of her and her husband's wedding propped up on a ceramic urn. She looked closer at the photo of her own face. She's smiling as if she's the happiest girl in the world, but there's a small scar under her left eyebrow, a scar that she now didn't have. This is why you should never reply to a stranger's email. John got an email from two girls claiming to be his sisters, even though he was an only child. What's even stranger is that these girls claimed that they were murdered in his house. They were found skinned in the closet. When the investigation failed and no one was found responsible, the parents decided to move on with the new baby. That baby was John, who grew up without knowing anything about his sisters. That's what the emails claimed anyways. John replied to this email saying that he didn't believe them, but that was his fatal mistake. Minutes later, he got another email. It said, "If you don't believe us, look in the closet." The next morning, John was gone. His parents called the police, who found the emails on his laptop and the closet door slightly open. Then they saw what would shock them. They found John in his closet, also skinned alive. Nowhere in the house was there any sign of an intruder. Then when they looked closer, they found something else. A row of faint writing on the wall that read Lisa and Sarah, 1993. Then just below it, freshly carved into the wood, John, 2007. This is why you should stay away from vending machines. Once a man named Haruo went fishing and stopped along the way to get something to drink from a vending machine. He got 2 bottles of vitamin juice that's very popular in Japan. Halfway through his second bottle, he started feeling sick. A few hours later, he was rushed to a local hospital in central Japan for internal chemical burns. Medical staff was unable to save him. The next night, he stopped breathing. In the 1980s in Japan, an unknown person, who has still not been caught to this day, had poisoned vending machine drinks, killing at least 10 people and seriously harming more than 30 in only a few months. The poison that was used was a herbicide that can easily be bought. Even if it just touches your skin, it can cause blisters, rapidly sinking deeper and burning your blood vessels. The bottled drink was either put inside or near the vending machines, just waiting for someone to take a sip. Not only is this terrifying because of how random the victims were, but it also caused a whole series of copycat crimes that was even more terrifying. Follow for part 2. If this happened to you at work, would you quit your job? One day, a janitor at a hospital in Indonesia was working the night shift alone, and understandably, the part of the hospital he hated cleaning the most, especially at night, was the morgue. But he went in that night, finished cleaning, and felt like someone was watching him. He thought he must just be psyching himself out. When he finished cleaning, he went outside, but the electricity suddenly shut off. Then he heard the sound of a woman crying. This is when he started feeling scared, but he could have never guessed what the crying sound was coming from. The last room he was meant to clean was one of the operating rooms. When he opened the curtain, he saw a pale nurse underneath the bed looking up at him. She started crawling out from under the bed, and he saw that her legs had been broken clean off. That's when he recognized her. She was a nurse who was killed years ago by a doctor who badly abused her, then crushed her legs so she couldn't run away. The police had found her buried in a shallow grave. As she kept dragging herself along the floor, the janitor froze. He couldn't run and he couldn't scream. But as soon as she was out of sight, he packed up his things and quit his job the next day.
According to the FBI, if you can solve this riddle, then you might be a psychopath. A girl is at her mother's funeral. She met a guy at the funeral that she didn't know, and they hit it off. She was busy receiving condolences from the different guests, and so she didn't have time to ask him for his phone number before he left. Following the funeral, she worked really hard to try and track him down, but unfortunately no one knew who he was or how to contact him. To add to her troubles, a few days later, her sister was found dead. The police suspect it to be a murder, but the question is, who did it and why? Let me know if you can get the answer.
The woman was in court for killing her husband. She said that she wasn't guilty and that she dearly missed her husband. In closing statement, the woman's lawyer stands up and says her husband was just missing. Everyone look at the doors. He's going to be walking through them in about 30 seconds. The entire jury stares at the door, waiting for this woman's husband to walk through the door. The lawyer and the woman stare at the jury. The lawyer concludes by saying, "See, If you were so sure that she killed her husband, why wouldn't you be watching the door? The jury immediately gave a guilty verdict. Why?
I have a 16-year-old babysitter who watches my 4 and 8-year-old. She watches my kids from 9 to 7 from Monday through Saturday, so I asked if she liked anything stocked up in the pantry or the fridge. She mentioned that she really likes seltzer water, and I bought them for the first month, but honestly, I forgot after a while and never kept any in the fridge. A few days ago, I bought hard seltzers for me and my husband and didn't think anything of it. While I'm at work, she messaged me to say if I can come home early because she's not feeling well. I asked her to try and hold out until the end of the day. Not too long after, she called me crying, saying that something was wrong and she had to go home. She was drunk, clearly. She had drank the hard seltzers that were in the fridge. I told her to leave and she walked home. She called me the next day crying that she didn't know that the hard seltzers had alcohol in them. Both her parents were alcoholics and she was diagnosed with PTSD regarding alcohol. She never planned on drinking in general. I told her not to come back as she put my children in danger. She says she really didn't know and she cares deeply about my children and would never ever drink or put them in danger.
Story time about why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. Never thought this would happen to me. The story takes the biggest turn at the end. Okay, so it first started off as just my lunch lady eyeing me weird. Whenever I would enter the cafeteria or whenever I would pay for my food, she would always give me the weirdest look. And then sometimes she wouldn't even let me get lunch. She would say, "Oh, you don't have enough money on your account." When I knew the day before I just put money in. So then I wouldn't be able to eat lunch. I reported her a couple times. Mind you, my mom works at the school. I even told my mom about it. She would just lie and be like, "I never said she couldn't get her food." Mom told me that if she ever refused to let me get food again, to just come up to her classroom and then she'll give me something to eat. But I was so confused because my mom works at the school and I expected her to talk to administration about how the lunch lady is treating her daughter. But she didn't say anything to administration until one day. This time I actually didn't have any money on my account and I did not know. I went to go get my lunch as usual. When I go to check out my food, this is part 2 of why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. So like I said, this time I actually didn't have any money and I went to check out my food for lunch. The lunch lady knocks my plate over and says I'm just like my mom since we're both greedy. And I had no idea what she meant. Said she meant to throw her hands up. She didn't mean to knock over my plate. Everyone was looking at us and it was so awkward, so I just walked away. And I didn't even sit down for lunch. I just walked out of the cafeteria and went straight to my mom's classroom. I had no idea what the lunch lady was talking about. My mom doesn't even talk to her. Or at least I thought she didn't. So like I said, I was on the way to my mom's classroom after the lunch lady yelled at me in front of the whole entire cafeteria. And once I got to my mom's classroom, I told her exactly what happened. She was in the middle of class. When I tell you my mom stormed out of her class, went straight to the cafeteria, pulled up on the lunch lady in front of everybody, and she grabs her by her hair. The lunch lady tried to grab to the cash register. The cash register fell and money went everywhere. All you could hear was the coins dropping on the floor like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. I was so close to jumping in, but okay, so this is part 3 of why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. Like I said, my mom dragged the lunch lady in front of everyone in the cafeteria. Some teachers came and pulled them apart. They immediately fired my mom, obviously. My mom said, "Forget this, forget y'all," and she took me and we both went home. Well, on the way home, she told me the beef with the lunch lady. So apparently the lunch lady had been flirting with the history teacher. And my mom and the history teacher were seeing each other on the low. My mom was married. So I was like, "So what about dad?" She said that my dad just didn't make her happy anymore. But the problem with the lunch lady was the fact that all the teachers at my school are messy as fuck. They all talk shit about each other. They're always talking about another teacher. And so basically all the staff knew, just because of rumors and gossip, that my mom and the history teacher were kind of seeing each other. Everyone knew, including the lunch lady. So once the lunch lady started flirting with the history teacher too, they low-key started having tension with each other. But it was unnecessary for the lunch lady to take out her anger on me, so that's why she whooped her ass. By the way, this happened when I was in high school. I have now graduated out of college. And my parents are divorced now, so...
Do you style your hair the same way every day? Well, there's an urban legend about a woman who always wore her hair in a bun, but for her, this habit would lead to something terrifying. This woman loved wearing her hair in a bun, but she might have taken it a bit too far. She didn't want to style her hair differently or even take out her bun to clean her hair. Whenever she took a shower, she would just wear a shower cap to make sure the water didn't mess up her bun. At night, she would sleep with a towel around her hair so the bun didn't move. After a while, she had to put hairspray in it to mask the smell. Then her scalp started feeling itchy, so she would put more hairspray in it. Even when the itching got intense, she just applied more hairspray. But her husband finally found out about how bad the situation had gotten when he woke up one day and his wife was still asleep. He tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't move. She had died in the middle of the night. The husband called the police, fearing that something unusual might have happened. But when her body was examined, they finally took out her bun. Inside her hair, they found something terrifying. They found a huge spider had gotten into her hair, made a nest, and laid eggs. When the baby spiders hatched, they bit through her skull and ate her brain. If you're ever studying late at night, don't do what she did. One night, a girl was studying alone in the library. It was around 2 in the morning, so she was getting pretty tired. But as soon as she shifted her books around, she noticed something strange. It was a website URL written on the desk. This made her curious, so she went on one of the computers in the library and typed in the website. But what she saw sent chills down her spine. It was a photo of a woman walking down a busy street, but it looked like it was taken from a distance, and the woman didn't know that she was being photographed. This made the girl feel uneasy, so she shut down the computer, grabbed her things, and left. But the next day, she became more curious. She thought it must be some kind of a joke, but she was too tired to notice, so she went back and typed in the website again. But this time, the image had turned into something terrifying. It was the same woman lying on the floor with a knife in her chest. The girl shut off the computer and called the police. After the call, she opened the computer again, but the photo had changed. It was now a photo of a girl in a library, taken from the back. It was a photo of her looking at the website. Underneath the photo was the caption, "You are my next internet star."